Hi, welcome back to another video. Are your hamstring tight? Well, it is natural for you to think it is just a matter of simply stretching them out, right? But if you have been doing these stretches for ages and are thinking to yourself, why are my hamstrings still tight even after stretching? Well, chances are that you're not addressing the underlying causes of your hamstring tightness. A big misconception in the fitness and rehab world is that muscles feel tight because they are short or overactive. That is, they are in a shortened, concentric position. Well, I'm going to explain to you in this video why this is not necessarily true. So watch till the end of this video and I will explain to you why stretching your hamstrings indiscriminately may just make the situation of your tight hamstring worse. And I will explain to you how to address the 4 common underlying causes of your hamstring tension so that you can sort your tight hammies out once and for all. If you like this video and find this useful, please click the like button. Please leave your comments below and share this video. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future weekly video release. Please also subscribe to this channel. This is completely free of charge, but will help the channel to grow. Thank you. So the first possible culprit of your chronically tight hamstring is your underactive or weak glutes. If you can remember from my numerous previous videos, weak glutes is prevalent for those who sit for a prolonged period of time, causing tightness of your hip flexors. This causes the antagonist of hip flexion, that is the glutes, to be switched off through a process known as reciprocal inhibition. Now, you see, the hamstring muscle group is located at the back of the thigh and is primarily responsible for bending or flexing the knees. But because the hamstrings also cross the hip joint in the back of the thigh, they help or are the synergies of the glute muscles in hip extension during activities like running and walking. Since the glutes are the prime mover for hip extension, and if the glutes are turned off, the muscles of your lower back and hamstrings will compensate for this and be forced to become overactive or overworked. So, the hamstrings become synergistically dominant. So when you have to extend your hip during walking and running to propel yourself forward, and if your glutes, the prime mover for hip extensions, are not functioning properly, the brain will look for alternative solutions to accomplish hip extension. So your hamstrings will take over to perform the task, a job it is not designed to do. The prime action, remember, of hamstring is knee flexion and not hip extension. Over time, your hamstrings become overactive and overworked and become chronically tight. Well, so how do you know if your hamstrings are overworked? Now, if you do a basic glute bridge and your hamstrings cramp up a bit, that is a good sign that you are using your hamstrings instead of your glutes to perform this action. Well, if this is the case, we can use a modification of the glute bridge to get your glutes to fire more. Now, if you push your feet away from your body but without actually moving your feet, before lifting by engaging your thighs, effectively, you're performing knee extension by engaging your quadriceps. Since the quadriceps are antagonists of the hamstrings, activation of the quadriceps will turn off the hamstrings through reciprocal inhibition. Your glutes will be forced to fire to extend your hips to lift your torso off the floor. Make sure you are squeezing your glutes at the top of the bridge as if you are trying to crack a nut between your bum cheeks. And the second possibility that the tightness of your hamstring is actually coming from the nerves running down the back of your leg. This is known as neurotension. Well, if the nerves that travel down your spine and down the back of your legs, such as the sciatic nerve, are getting caught up by adhesions along the path, it can feel very similar to hamstring tightness. Particularly so if you experience some numbness or pins and needles in your legs, or if you feel it more at the back of your knee and calf when you stretch your hamstrings. Well, to test this, you can do a Slump test, which is a neurotension test used to detect altered neurodynamics or neurotissue sensitivity. To begin the test, sit with your hands behind your back to achieve a neutral spine. The first step is to slump forward at the thoracic and lumbar spine. From here, extend one knee as much as possible. Now actively dorsiflex the ankle until you feel tightness on the back of your leg. Now, if you extend your head back and if all the tensions in your leg disappears, it is likely that your pain is coming from nerve irritation rather than the muscles of your leg. So if the nerve is just getting caught up by adhesions along its path, you can relieve this neurotension with some nerve flossing. So nerve flossing or neurogliding is a set of exercises that gently mobilize the nerves. Now lie supine, raise your thigh to a roughly vertical position. Cuddle your leg with your straight arms. Now bring your toes towards your body, that is dorsiflexion. Then keeping your toes back, extend your knees until you feel a mild stretch down the back of your leg. From here, flex and extend your ankle 5 times to slide the nerve along its pathway to clear out any adhesions. Do 3 sets of 5 daily. But it is really important that you only want a mild stretching sensation as you bring your toes towards you. This is not a stretch of the hamstring muscles. It is gliding the nerve along its pathway. Well, if the nerve cannot slide properly due to severe adhesions, or if you have problems with your intervertebral disc that is causing pain, stop doing this and seek further medical advice. And the third possible underlying issue for your tight hamstrings is your tight hip flexors. This is prevalent for those who sit for a prolonged period of time. Tight hip flexors not only turn off your glutes, as I've just mentioned a moment ago, they tilt your pelvis forward into anterior pelvic tilt, tightening your hammies. Just reminding you that anterior pelvic tilt is also known as lower cross syndrome, typically associated with an exaggerated lumbar curve, and this is known as hyperlordosis and tight lower back muscles, and this is a common cause of lower back pain. There is a big misconception that muscles feel tight because they are short or overactive, that is, they are in a shortened concentric position. And that is not necessarily true, because every muscle should have a degree of resting slack within it. And it is the same with your hamstrings, so it can contract and pull your pelvis back, or it can elongate as the pelvis goes into an anterior tilt. Now, if you have an anterior pelvic tilt due to your tight hip flexors pulling it forward, since your hamstrings are attached to the ischial-tuberosity of your pelvis, if the pelvis is tilted forward, it will stretch your hamstrings tighter. The more forward the pelvis goes into the anterior tilt, the tighter your hamstrings will be. If you just stretch your hamstrings without realizing the underlying cause, a lengthened hamstring will simply allow your pelvis to tilt forward even more. Although this may provide you with temporary relief, this will not resolve your tight hammy problems. You can check if you have an anterior pelvic tilt with hyperlordosis by checking your posture sideways in front of a mirror and see if you have an exaggerated lumbar curvature. If you do, you have lower cross syndrome with tight hip flexors, most likely caused by prolonged sitting. So naturally stretching and lengthening your hip flexors is one of the ways to reverse your anterior pelvic tilt. But before I show you how to stretch your hip flexors, let me remind you that your hip flexors are primarily made up of 3 groups of muscles. We first have the psoas major that runs from your lower back to the front of your hip and attaches to the top of your femur. Then we have the iliacus, and the primary action is to flex and rotate your thigh. Lastly, we have the rectus femoris, one of the 4 quadricep muscles that attach your pelvis to the tendons of your knee. Now, this standard hip flexor stretch will not access the psoas major as it travels up the lateral aspect of your spine to the level of the diaphragm. And if you just adopt the typical lunge position, you stretch the iliacus, but not necessarily your psoas major. So, in order to effectively target your psoas major, from this classic lunge position, raise your arm on the side of the stretch overhead. Then laterally flex your torso slightly to the side away from your back leg. Next, drop your shoulder back. Hold this position for 20 to 30 seconds before repeat the same on the other side. The goal is to perform 6 cycles per side. So the final underlying cause of your tight hamstrings could be due to adhesions and trigger points within the muscle, or that you are not stretching it properly, meaning that you are not isolating the muscle enough. So if your hamstring tightness is pretty chronic, start off doing myofascial release with the trigger point ball. But in order to release the trigger points effectively, it helps to have a basic understanding of the anatomy of your hamstrings, which is a group of 3 muscles: bicep femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. Place the ball under the hamstring on a firm seat and slowly extend and flex your knee. Work on several places throughout the belly of the hamstring for a minute or so. These uses ischemic compression, fascial release, and reciprocal inhibition, all to relax the muscle. For the stretching components, don't stretch your hamstrings like this with your knees straight and your toes towards you. If you stretch like this, you are likely to be stretching the nerves or the calf muscles instead of your hamstrings. So you're more likely to hurt yourself because your knees is locked. So do this instead. If you put your foot down on the bench, plan to flex your foot to take the calf muscles out of the stretch. Now, if you bend your knee lightly, you are taking out the nerve component. Now keeping your lower back straight and not rounded, now bend forward slightly to intensify the stretch. Now move forward and backward for 30 seconds. Do this twice on each side. Make sure that you have a bit of weight on the front leg so that you're using the hamstrings lightly as you stretch. This adds an eccentric component to the stretch, making it better than a static stretch. And you can also perform this stretch on the floor. If you have tried stretching your hamstrings and are still struggling with tightness or pain, contact a healthcare provider. They can evaluate your symptoms and offer a treatment plan. They also may refer you to see a physical therapist who can show you the ways to improve your hamstrings flexibility. I hope you find the information in this video interesting and useful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next week, take care. Thank you for watching until the end. If you like this video, please click the like button. Please leave your comments below and share this video. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future weekly video release. Please also subscribe to this channel. This is free of charge but will help the channel to grow. If you're interested in improving your health and fitness or losing weight, if you suffer from or wish to prevent back pain, please take a look at my book, which is now available from Amazon worldwide. Thank you.